Alright, Trekkers and Trekkies. So, I am finally going to start getting into the Diamond Select Art Asylum, actually, figures. So, after Playmates had ended their toy line in 2000, was officially the end of it, all of us fans were left in the air, terrified what might happen. No. We heard it was late 2001 that, we heard the announcements for Star Trek Nemesis was going to be coming out in 2002, and then it was announced that this company called Art Asylum was going to be doing the figures for the movie, and that they would actually be also doing figures for Star Trek Enterprise, which was going to be coming. Those were going to come shortly after the Star Trek Nemesis figures. We then found out that those figures were going to be significantly taller, that they would be... I need to grab my desk wharf. If you've not been here before, I have a desk wharf. Got to remember so I can compare him in just a minute. So the figures for Art Asylum were going to be bigger. They were going to have more articulation, more detail, etc., etc. So we're going to look at the 4 figures for Star Trek Nemesis. I've got all 4 of them that they made. And of course, we will start with Captain Picard. Obviously, the detail, like I said, these face sculpt. This was actually one of the first times they went to the movie set, used one of those 3D scanners. I'm doing it like this. It wasn't this close to the head. It was back a little ways. I got a friend who actually, acquaintance guy I know, who he actually works for one of the companies that does the 3D scanning for movies and all that kind of stuff nowadays. And Star Trek Nemesis was one of the first times that they actually did this. They went out, they did the scans of Patrick Stewart, Brent Spiner, etc., of their heads so they could get everything accurate as far as the shape of their face and so forth. Which the only thing about them is that, yes, it's a very accurate sculpt, but it doesn't really convey much emotion of any kind. It's just which I realize for Data, it kind of sort of works, but it's still just very, dead face. But it does have a whole lot of articulation. You've got the arms, ball joint up. The elbow is sort of a typical L joint, and this is the thing with the legs are also L joints, but they do have the feet on little sockets. But one of the things that made these figures different was that they were going to have some parts that were made of rubber so that they would be soft and things could move. One of them is this collar piece on the shirt is rubber, so it allows the head to swivel around and move, possibly in unrealistic ways. But of course you can see one of the issues is some of the paint rub off over the years. I mean, this is 2024 when I'm recording this, so this figure is 22 years old. This figure is legally old enough to drink alcohol in the United States. That's a one way to put it. But also, this little cuff here at the bottom of the shirt is also a rubber piece, which I'm not entirely sure what that achieves. It doesn't, because the leg joints are below that, and while it does have hip swivel, it's not really significant enough for me to think that that's good reason to put that in. But the Data figure is essentially identical. These did come with some accessories, and I have unfortunately lost a lot of those accessories over the years. But you will see with Data, I do have the phaser. First, I'll kind of let you get a look at the face sculpt there, which to me, especially on Data, even though Data was an android and he didn't have emotions, of course, at the point of the movies, he did. He had the emotions chip and everything. It's just a very stale, I guess is the word for it, face sculpt. Again, it's got the rubber piece. Yeah, I can pull this one down actually enough that you can see it there. And then it's got the rubber piece there. Although you might have noticed, actually, I should have pointed that out on the card, is that some of the paint has rubbed off on that rubber piece there. And we can see that it's sort of a blue color, which will make sense in a minute. All the articulation on Data is the same. Arms move the same way. Hands move, swivel around. Which would have been great if they'd had consoles and chairs and stuff that we could seat them in, but we never got anything like that for any of the First Contact Enterprise-y level of stuff. So next I'm going to grab not Shinzon, it's the Viceroy. I can't remember his official name now. This one, he is, and I should grab a ruler real quick. Let me grab my ruler. Let's just see. So, Data and Picard both coming in pretty much right at the 7-inch mark. I need to lower that down. Data's just a hair above that 7-inch. What is that? About a 7 1/4. And Picard just a little bit less than that, 7 1/8. Whereas the Viceroy is about 7 3/4. It's getting close to 8 inches there. These were supposed to all be in the 7-inch scale. But of course, the Viceroy is played by Ron Perlman. Who in real life, I believe he's like 6'8". He's the guy who everybody now remembers is playing Hellboy. Which, even though that last Hellboy movie was actually fairly decent, Ron Perlman was just a much better Hellboy. So you can see he's got this like cape thing. I did like these costumes. These were cool costumes. Nothing too crazy about these belts. But again, you see on the boots down here. Ooh, I need to clean the inside of that cape. That's getting dirty. So on the boots down here, if we fold that down, he's got these rubber good pieces, which you can now, if you look, it's that same blue as what's showing on Picard's. So obviously they just used the same blue rubber for all of these pieces and painted them, which the paint job on these is terrific. It definitely conveys the sort of, I don't know what the fabric was that they used on the costumes for the Remans. It was just almost like holographic. Like, it shifted between green and blue and purple. It was so cool. The face sculpt is amazing. If you follow me on any of the social medias, you'll know that a while back, I actually took this head and did the shrinking process that I've shown on videos before to have it fit the 5-inch figures. So that I could put that on there, and it looks fantastic. So anyways, and the face sculpt it worked perfectly. It shrunk wonderfully. Anyways, now one issue I have had with some of these figures is the joints on the hands do occasionally get a little stiff. And it's hard to move them, but obviously this rubber attracts dirt. I have cleaned the outside of this. I didn't clean the inside. I missed that, but the outside of this, I have cleaned this, and it still looks like this. And it's, for some reason, I've noticed on other figures that this rubber stuff tends to attract some kind of, maybe it's a mold? I'm not entirely sure. It cleans off, but it loves this rubber. Maybe if there's somebody in the comments who knows more about the rubber type stuff than I do, you might have an answer for that. So the final figure I'm going to look at here is the villain of the movie, the clone of Captain Picard. Oh man, I'm forgetting the actor's name. I know it. He's an awesome. Everybody remembers him as playing Bane in Batman. The Dark Knight. No, not the Dark Knight. Dark Knight Returns. That's it. This one, again, great sculpt. Tom Hardy. I know my crap. You just gotta give my brain a minute to get the gears going. Tom Hardy, he was young at the time that he played this. He was like 22, 23. It was one of his first major roles that he did. Apparently he didn't enjoy it too terribly much, but I thought he did a great job. The legs do not have the same way of doing the boots. This is hard on him, and I'm not sure why they did it differently on his. The cape is essentially identical. A little bit, slight differences, but almost the same. Interestingly, this one's not nearly as dirty. Again, I clean the outside. I fairly consistently clean the outside of these because, like I said, they attract some kind of weird mold. And he's got the knife there that he cuts the palm of his hand with. So last thing, just to let y'all see size comparison a little bit. There is the 5-inch Worf from Playmates next to the 7-inch Picard. We'll move Shenzan in and make this a weird, how the kids sleep between mom and dad. But anyways, get a good comparison there of what it looks like. So yeah, for Nemesis, for this era of Star Trek, it was a while. It wasn't until the company changed its name to Diamond Select. A couple of years later, they changed the name to Diamond Select, and then they started doing the figures from the other shows. They did original series, which I've got a few of those that we'll look at some point. They did some Deep Space Nine. I don't think they did any Voyager. If they did, it was probably, I think it might have only been like Captain Janeway or Seven. It was very limited. They did Enterprise, which the Enterprise line kind of had some debacle to it, which we'll talk about that when we get to that video. But they did eventually do a few more. They did Riker and Troy. Of course, they did Worf in this particular uniform, mainly because it was Worf on Deep Space Nine. I don't recall that they ever did Geordi or Dr. Crusher in these uniforms. I think that they only did them in the Next Generation uniforms. I may be mistaken. I'll have to go and check on that again. But yeah, so this has been a look at the Art Asylum Star Trek Nemesis 2002 7-inch figures. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you'll come back and see more later on as we look at more of these. And yeah, I hope you have a good day. I'll see you next time. Go out and make something. If you enjoy my videos and want to see more, please like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell icon. If you want to support me, you can find me on Patreon or go over to Zazzle for prints of my artwork, t-shirts, and other cool stuff. If you're still here, why? Do you want to jam out?